Hello, I'm MK Davis. What you're looking at is the coast of Louisiana. The area they call the Gulf of America now. It was the Gulf of Mexico. Used to be the Gulf of New Spain. They called it a lot of gulfs. But that's not my point. I'm particularly zeroing in on an area that you might have heard of. Okay, let's just go right up here. This is the city of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Probably known more for getting in the way of hurricanes than anything. But when you go up here, you see... Let me see if I can find it. There's a little town called Deridder. This is Dequincy. They're not far from each other, but they're so small, it's hard to get the name to show up on here. And they're not far, and the Deridder is probably not known for too much, but what it is known for is kind of famous for is an animal that was killed on the road that no one could identify. I've never had trouble finding Deridder before. Well, I just tell you what I'll do. There we go, Deridder. Now let me tell you a little bit about Deridder. This alleged animal that no one had seen anything like it was supposedly killed on Highway 12. And if you'll look, there's no Highway 12 there. But occasionally, someone calls it the Dequincy roadkill. If you go down to Dequincy, which is going to be right here, between Ragley and Dequincy is Highway 12. So I realized then that it's one of those things where whatever the locals were most familiar with saying, where Deridder probably was it, and it got tagged with that discovery, but it was on Highway 12, outside of Dequincy. Well, that's let's just go over there. I think I've got up here. Well, I just don't understand why I can't find my stuff. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I know exactly where it is. There we go. Well, that's a small photo, isn't it? Well, it don't really look like much. Thank goodness this lady was driving along there and had her camera with her. And this is back in like the mid-90s. So she took pictures of it and she described it. She called it as big as a St. Bernard. And there you go again. They're looking for something to give them some kind of measurement standard. You know, this animal was strange in the sense that she says it had like fingers instead of paws. And I worked with it a little bit to see if I could get it to clear up and be a little better photo. There's another shot of it. This is brightened up. Now, to get my standard, I was fortunate enough to find this collage of pictures online. And I found this person was standing here. And that might give you a little idea that this thing is really quite large. And that's Highway 12, which is paved, but not that well. You see all it's broken up real bad. It's not one of the main roads. I'm going to try my best to find some more. But anyway, that's not my story. If I'm going to go through a little story here in a minute. And it was about something else that happened around there. And there was a family who owned some land. And they had this really strange looking, call it a pond or lake. And it occasionally would dry up close to it. And they started finding stuff in there, and they got curious. One of the people, and he got a backhoe and dug a trench and pulled out some stuff that was really strange. Let me see if I can just show you that. Here's an aerial view of it. Seasonal lake. Trench 1. And he come to find out that this area right in here, along this line here, had something very unusual. It had melted stone, like a meteor impact. And they said, well, at that time when they realized that, they said, I'm going to go take this to somebody who is an expert on it. And they took it to a university who referred them to someone else who was even more of an expert. And they began to look at the samples, and they realized, well, you know, this looks like an impact, but we're not seeing a real impact there. This is the lake in kind of an oblique view. It has a little bit of a ridge, but not that much to explain temperatures that high. Here at the bottom of his trench, you see his shoes sticking up into the field of view. You see they're pipes. He called them pipes. That you could cut them out. He cut it out with his chainsaw. And there was dirt in here in the center, but when you dug the dirt out, it was a stone pipe. That's the gentleman. You can go here if you want to read more about it. Superheated plasma from space. Touchdown 12,800 years ago in Louisiana. That's what the scientist said. He's holding up one of the pipes that he cut off with a chainsaw. Now this began to be very interesting, not only to the scientists, but to me also. Because this was in the very area where that weird animal was struck and killed. Somebody hauled it off, I assume. Kind of makes you wish, you know, that that the right person had come by there at the right time, and maybe we would understand and know right now much better. But the number that caught my attention was this number right here. 12,800 years ago, they had a tremendous die-off of animals. And they call it the Younger Dryas event. And they said something came from space that was so hot that it melted the ice caps, and the oceans rose quickly to 400 feet higher than they are now. And these scientists are saying it was not a meteor, but it was a ball of superheated plasma. And plasma is so rare that it really don't have a lot of substance. When you get to about 7,000 degrees, most things will turn to plasma. All the electrons and stuff expand out into way away from the nucleuses of atoms and stuff like that. But it becomes so rare that I've seen plasma pass through solid glass. Just go through it undamaged, because it fit through it. It fit through atomically. So this was a plume of it, a plume from space of superheated plasma. Let's go back to this oblique view. Apparently it didn't come straight in, but it came in enough to drag out and create that. And this wasn't the only thing. What also occurred to me was that plasma is the most likely fuel for long-distance space travel. They're working feverishly right now on plasma engines. They don't have power per se, a lot of power, because the plasma doesn't have very much substance. But if you use it like a rocket engine and you expel it out the back, it will push some forward, but it will push at very high velocity. And you can continue to gain speed until you're reaching a substantial percentage of the speed of light. And that was the big attraction of plasma for long-distance space travel. Okay, so you're in the plasma comes down near a little town they call Perkins, which is a little. Oh, let's see. Let me get back over here. And Perkins is almost just a crossroads. We'll go back to this. I got it right here. There's Dequincy. Here's Perkins. Kind of a little crossroad right here. Perkins, Louisiana. I went through there recently and took a kind of a gander. And it's a neighborhood. Got some pretty nice houses right in here. And then I tried to go back in there to where this place was. Let me see if I can find it. What I found in Perkins surprised me. Now, if you look here, this is that same place. This is where the plume of plasma touched down. And look out here at these the guy on the video called them pimple mounds because they looked to him or reminded him of pimples. Well, when I saw them, I recognized them because I had seen them before. Where did I see them before? I saw them in East Texas at a place that has become famous for Bigfoot sightings and lots of videos of Bigfoot. And they had these similar looking things. Now, when I see something I don't know anything about, or I don't just dismiss it. I kind of put it on a shelf. And if I see anything else that tells me anything more, I'll go back and get it and look at it again. Now, understand that some of these might be, from the air, they look a little different, but some of these might be explainable, but not all of them for sure. Here's an older one right here. And you see there's a lake. Does it look kind of similar? You see older ones back off in here. Now let's look some more. Other places that I've seen them. This is in California. These people are befuddled. They don't know what they are. No one does. This is in Nevada. This is near the famous Lovelock Cave. Goes from large to smaller in a line. There's an older one here. What are they? Could they be plasma plumes? Maybe so. I don't know. And here's some more in Texas there. These are rock alignments that I paid attention to. These are rocks. But amongst the rocks is circles. It's another alignment of rocks. In Texas again. Now, what the moral of the story? I'm a little unsure, but if you see a really strange looking roadkill, and you have the time to think about it or do anything, it wouldn't hurt to ride it and see if you can find some of these things. This is in Washington State. They won't let anybody walk or hike amongst these things because they don't know what they are. There's a lot of theories. Once again, East Texas. And this is in South America, in Peru. These are like the opposite of the Mima mounds. They're not mounds, they're holes. And they can't explain them, but they're perfect. They're like a road. They have defined edges, and they go over rough terrain and don't alter not one bit. They're still geometrically perfect. Now, let's go back. I went riding back around there trying to get to this pond right here, this place. And it was pretty much all isolated, fenced off stuff. I can show you. I think that's in Deridder. Yeah, you see how it's just a rural. All right, well, we won't get into that, but I'm going to make my way around. That's just going through the town of Deridder. I was doing a recon, see what I could find and see what I could see, try to set up another trip. Well, I was wrong about that. Highway 12 does not go anywhere toward Deridder. It goes from Ragley to Dequincy. That's leaving town there in Deridder. All right. All right. This is approaching Perkins. All right, let's just make our way around. For the sake of brevity, I'll skip a little bit. You see it makes its way back into some brushy areas, wooded areas. There's some activity going on as far as logging and some other stuff. And the other stuff is what I want to show you. Now, I should have a still. I'm going to hurry through this one. And this is me snooping. That's all it is. I'm riding around looking. And sometimes you see something. I didn't see a roadkill but I saw something. Look way down there. Listen to what I say here. I said that for a reason. Let me go find this still I have. There it is, right there. Entry to this facility is restricted. Check in with the government. So back in there where this plasma plume made contact with the Earth 12,800 years ago, at the exact same time as the big giant melt-off of the ice caps and the extinction of animals. Well, they built a secret government laboratory or something. And they don't want you in there unless you have like some special permission. So I can't get back in there, but at the same time that we've had all this occur with the plasma plumes and all of that, and these unexplained circles, and the Younger Dryas event 12,800 years ago, is which they used other scientific means to determine that, and they matched perfectly with the Younger Dryas event. And then they see weird animals on the side of the road. And you go back up here like this, and you see how large this thing is. Can't get any expanded out anymore, but look at the feet. Well, anyways. And then you see the same particular circles at other places where these unexplained sightings occur of both what you might call a Bigfoot, or maybe cryptids as well. Now, what does a cryptid have to do with any of the plasma events? Well, a plasma it don't just float around on its own. Not usually. It was there. I happen to know that it's a major component of research for making an engine that will travel interstellar space. So, could something have left the Earth and went into interstellar space? Or did something come to the Earth through interstellar space? And if it did, what did it have with it? Could it be... You see what I mean, where my mind's kind of taking me? That's not a natural thing for this area or any other area. Where did it come from? Did it come from a military facility? Maybe. That's working with plasma? Or did they find something in these samples? Maybe some DNA samples or something like that from someplace so far away that it's not even in our vicinity of the solar system. Let's see. A pipe. Melted stone. They had spherules too, little round glass beads. Somebody was burning the earth right there with some tremendous temperatures. They said 7,000 degrees. If you watch this video, it's called Superheated Plasma from Space Touchdown 12,800 years ago in Louisiana. The Perkins Plume Crater. Oblique view of the Perkins Plume Crater shows another place right here where something touched down right there. Kind of skipped and jumped. And if it were doing that in enough places at 7,000 degrees, and no telling how tall the plume was. What are we looking at? Weird animals. High strangeness. Bigfoot sightings. Are these perhaps places where something landed? Lovelock Cave. Lovelock Cave was pretty strange too. Lots of strange goings on in northern Nevada. I've been out there. Right here. One right here, one right here, one right here. East Texas. East Texas. Washington State. Perkins, Louisiana. Deridder, Dequincy, Louisiana. Weird animals. And maybe even Bigfoot. And I thank you for your time.